Welcome to the 11th installment of Through the Looking Glass with Flavosky, Lucy, and Slag Nasty. Today we will be down a host, but me and Slag are going to do our best to cover yellow journalism and deep fake. So, Slag, would you like to start us off on what a deep fake is? I know when you brought it up yesterday, it was the first time I'd ever heard of it.
Basically, deep fake is like weaponized fake news. It's runs the gamut from anywhere from fake celebrity sex tapes to like speeches by current and former like political figures. And what they are doing is it's apparently based off of Google's artificial intelligence technology to be able to emulate people's voices.
Yeah.
Google's even done a demonstration showing like how smart their assistant has become to the point where it could almost fool people into like a conversation. Like you may call, and my assistant, may kind of psych you out a little until you realize like maybe it's a bot. But yeah, deep fake is where you graph someone else's face using computer technology onto a video, like say a porn actress, and yeah, and you release it. And it's usually, depending on the quality of the rendering, it can be really, really difficult to see that it's a fake. We're not talking about like, Scarlett Johansson photoshopped titties here. This is the
Yeah.
real deal. This is a real concentrated effort to make it real. And that's the difference between the deep fake and just a regular fake, because they're really going the extra mile to deceive the viewer into believing that not only are they seeing the person, but the real key is that they're hearing them too. And the audio is the tough part.
Yeah.
You need many hours of it's just like the movies. You need many hours of like someone speaking so that you can try to get it just right, or you could get a good impersonator. Scary
Well,
stuff.
the article that we're referencing here is from The Guardian, and it says, "You thought fake news was bad. Deep fakes are where the truth goes to die." And the headline is, "Technology can make it look as if anyone has said or done anything. Is this the next wave of misinformation warfare?" That's quite a headline, because we rely on the media to present information that is true and unbiased, which in recent years and maybe even going back quite a couple decades has been not the truth. It started out with yellow journalism, and we got like things like the Gulf of Tonkin. What
The
was that?
Spanish American War
Yeah, I was
was
about to say the
started.
Spanish American War. Remember the USS Maine, things like that, and those were used as a way to initiate a war. And later on, when we look back in history, we can't corroborate what actually happened there. I believe it. I can't remember the president, but I want to say Woodrow Wilson, but I don't think that's who it was. Said that for all he knew, in the Gulf of Tonkin, they were shooting at whales. There was no Vietnamese, ships they were shooting at. It was just, it was a mistake. And whether it was
It's def-
orchestrated or not, it was used in a misinforming way to start a war.
oh yeah, that was definitely way past Wilson's time. Um, I will have to double check to see exactly who was president at the time. But yeah, as far as yellow and affecting foreign policy go hand in hand. I mean, you mentioned the USS Maine. And that was the ship that was destroyed, I think, while it was in Cuba.
Yeah.
And literally, I mean, the Spanish American War saw the birth of yellow journalism. And what's scary is I linked the article and they were talking about in May of last year, there was a video that appeared on the net asking, advising the people of Belgium on the issue of climate change.
Yeah.
And they got hundreds of comments about how angry, like screw you, like you should stay out of our internal politics and all this other stuff. But the problem was it was a fake video. But look at how much rancor it generated. I mean, now just imagine if there were people that were, we talked about this earlier a little bit before we came on, but it's like, imagine now that these deep fake videos are in the hands of our poorly educated and lazy politicians. And just imagine the damage that can be done in like an up and down vote where it's down to the wire, and some of these people have received these videos purporting to show something when it's all fake. Well, when it's online, there's like a natural pushback. We have time. Like you and I could go on, or someone else could go on if they really wanted to waste their time and point out, like, no, this is fake. This article shows this.
You cut out. Slag.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You cut out like you did a minute ago.
All right. That's really weird. I'm not sure what's going on there, but just imagine these being in the hands of these people behind closed doors where we can't get to them, where journalists and other people can't get to them and say, guys, this is fake. Like, like don't listen to this. They have to use their own judgment. And frankly, that's really what scares me. So,
Well, I mean, you also got a huge problem with a lot of people when they see a article, they read the headline and they go about their day. And then, they go to the water cooler at work. Hey, did you hear about this? And it's just passing headlines. Nobody passes news anymore. All they do is pass headlines. Nobody fact checks news anymore. Everybody just, you read a headline, and it's true. And nobody fact checks it. They leave it up to the media and other people to fact check what they're spewing, and it doesn't work out. It just you have to fact check it.
For better or worse, from my own experience, I worked at a store, and it was a small, like mom and pop owned store. And I got to talking to some of the customers sometimes and strike up conversations while they were there, getting their stuff and leaving. And one thing I noticed was, especially after 2016, and I'm not going to take sides in this regard, but what I noticed was every day someone had a different talking point that they were just regurgitating from that morning from watching the news. So you could actually just watch the news in the morning and predict what everybody was going to be talking about that day. And it's like it would work like clockwork. I mean, if you could make money betting on it, like you you would have made
You'd be a millionaire.
Oh yeah, and it's a real issue, and mall politics, it hasn't died. Like it's still there. It's still going very strong, and now it has even more uh, ways of manipulating people and manipulating their feelings. Like as a slight tangent, you and I we were talking, and you had mentioned this hype marketing before, where it's
Mhm.
like, well, you know what? If it's going to really anger you that we're against you on this issue, then we're against you on this issue. And it's like, there's no real conviction. Does Nike really care? I don't think so. I don't think Nike really cares. But what I do think Nike cares about is being talked about and creating this sort of buzz and this hype. But the downside is it seems to activate all the crazies. I mean, I'm sitting here, I was on one side of that issue as far as Nike goes. I'm just some guy online, okay? But I was starting to really kind of cringe when I was watching people just like, burning their stuff or basically acting like animals. And it's like, guys, like, you got one side saying the other side's animals, you got the other side saying the other side's animals, and you look and you're like, well, I certainly see lots of animals, and they're not just all on one side,
Yeah.
and I think this all ties into how easy it is to manipulate people, and the fact that some of these sources are just very well trusted, without any sort of critical thinking or any sort of your own original thought to at least decide for yourself. It's like you don't decide for yourself. Like you've already made the decision by looking at this thing, and it's programming or something. I mean,
Well,
it's
I've
one reason that
actually
conspiracy
found
theory.
the video, I believe, that originally started all this off. So I'm gonna see if I can play it real quick. Come on. Oh, the internet's great.
I think that's why I cut out earlier. There was an issue with the Twitch machine. That's what it was saying on the web.
Yeah, I don't understand why this video won't play. I'm trying to pull it up because I haven't heard the video yet, and I would like to hear it. Because Trump would seem to be a hard person to emulate. He's got a very distinct voice and mannerism that the American people know well.
I mean, the thing is, I'm looking at the video through a Facebook link,
Yeah. If you could post that.
which I posted there, and it's laughable. Like, it's not even a real good fake. Like, the voice is terrible. Because we've all heard Trump's voice. I mean, he won't stop talking. Whether
Yeah.
or not you're a fan or not, that's one thing that people will say is that he talks a lot. So we all know what his voice sounds like. But this video is very poor quality, but yet it got hundreds of people on board to do what I call like a 5 minute hate, which is from 1984. It's just mindless expression of like virtue signaling hatred.
Well, if I understand correctly, this was done by a Belgian Twitter account or whatever, and it
Yes.
tricked Belgian people, which they're reading in subtitles, and they're not as familiar. So I could see how it could fool them, but also you got to think like you mentioned earlier. Let's say there's a huge election coming up, and somebody releases a average quality deep fake. In the time it's going to take people to verify this, or I mean, maybe they won't even watch the video. Maybe people are like, "Oh, did you hear what he said?" They won't even go look at the video. They'll take it at face value, and you may have cost somebody the election.
Yeah, and you see, by extension, that also means that you've cost the country.
Yeah.
Because what if the person is a legitimate force that could have been a force for good? But now there's a video out there showing them, you know, doing horrible things with donkeys. And it's like, it's just going to make the rounds like wildfire, and you're going to have all sorts of journalists jumping on board because the more clickbaity that they can make things, the more clicks they're going to get and the more ad revenue that's generated. So it's like this really, I mean, deep fakes are definitely something that people need to worry about because it's going to be this like rotten kernel of this yellow journalism and just clickbait,
Well,
like dictionless writing.
I want to say that as far as the quality of deep fakes go, you've seen that one. The one I saw was I was looking up deep fake on Reddit, and there was a guy that was doing deep fake porn videos of like putting celebrities on other porn stars and leaking their voice with it. And apparently this guy was really really good at it. And he initially he got banned off Reddit for doing that, but I found one of his videos that somebody had reposted, and I watched it. It was an Ariana Grande porn video, and I gotta say, it was immaculate. Like it was indistinguishable from reality. Looked exactly like Ariana Grande. Facial movements matched up. Lip syncing was perfect. Voice sounded exactly the same. I, I would, if Ariana Grande said it wasn't her, I'd call her a liar. It was that real.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
was
and
it was
that's the thing
perfect.
is now you're going to have, you see, it's the irony is you had a lot of celebrities running towards and embracing their sex tapes. Well, now you're going to have a whole new era of these people having to defend themselves against this. And I mean, honestly, I don't really care whether or not you like her or hate her or anything like that. But at the end of the day, that's someone's daughter,
Yeah.
and it's like, or that's going to be someone's mom in the future, and, you know, porn actresses already get enough flack for having children because their kids are going to have to deal with what the real decisions that their parents made. Well, now you got this whole other set of stuff. So it's we're going to see more of this. And I was thinking about something while you were talking, and it's like I was kind of ragging on the quality of that video. But you know what? We made fun of the first gunpowder weapons too. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and within a few hundred years, we had very accurate rifles, and then we got machine guns. So throughout the time, we've been refining and refining and refining. And you look at a gun and you think, as a layman, oh, there's not much I can do to improve this. But the industry is always working on new designs to tweak things, and that's what's going to happen with this. I mean, I don't even want to imagine what's going to happen by like 2020. You know,
I mean,
you know,
the layman may think, well, this is all good and well affecting high level politicians, but you need a lot of photos and videos of people to get it to work. And they were like, well, nobody's gonna have all that about me. They will, because Facebook, social media, Instagram, Twitter, you're already posting everything they need to make a deep fake about you on your fucking Instagram feed. You know, you
Yeah,
got videos, you got your face, you got your Snapchat facial recognition. They've already mapped you out. All you need is somebody to follow you on there and get all this stuff, or even worse, do a data breach or data mine you, and they got everything they need on anybody.
make it convincing enough for their purposes. And you see, the thing is as far as these sorts, if you want to talk about weaponizing them, the key is to make sure that you. It's almost like you're a hunter with only one bullet left.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to do it too early. You don't want to do it too often. You want to have these sweet spots. Well, we talk about in U.S. politics what's known as the October surprise, which is the month before November, where shit inevitably hits the fan for someone. You know, some pussy tape came out or whatever. Well, now we're going to have the November 5th surprise, you know, where it's like, it's just, you're not going to have enough time. And social media is just going to be able to blow this up and get it out and retweet and spread the message around so quickly. I mean, what are these campaigns or these people going to do? You know, I mean, you're one person.
Well,
Even
there's
if you have a staff,
multiple
let's say you're 200 people pushing against millions, you know?
multiple ways you could look at that. I mean, you have a lot of people that adamantly say that, right before the election, you can't sway the voter. The voter knows who he's going to vote for, and anything you do in that last month isn't going to sway their opinion. But I believe studies have shown that most people don't know who they're voting for until they get into the booth. And maybe not a
That's been my
majority.
personal experience.
Yeah, maybe not a majority, but a sizable portion of voters have a very loose idea and are easily persuaded on their way to the voting booth. And that's why when you go to vote, there's always people outside with, vote Hillary or vote Trump. This is what they're for, because they're trying to get that last minute persuasion. These are the people that know the business. They know the game, and that's how they're playing it. So look at how they play the game, because they know how to win it. So you got to take note of that. If you see them putting a lot of effort on last minute voters, there's definitely a market there. They're not doing it for no reason. They're doing it because they know it works.
Yeah.
These are the experts in the industry.
For example, like look at, I like to call it Little Drummer Boy, the thing that happened with that Catholic school over the weekend with that Indian man with the drum. And, somebody goes, and I don't know who originated that shit tier article, but, it's like he had his chest puffed out and he was smirking and threatening the guy. And people just ran with it. They just ran with it. They're like, oh, let's send death threats to these guys. Let's call up their colleges and make sure that they don't get in. And that's what's scary about this sort of fake news stuff. You're really going to activate the wrong sort of people at one point or another. Either, just some crazy guy who wants to go out and avenge, Ariana Grande's honor, or it could be a guy who feels so strongly that he goes out and instead of doing a shooting, he does something like sends a bomb to the Catholic diocese, which is connected to Covington, which is what happened today. They had to shut down the diocese because they got a suspicious package. I mean, you, me, regular average folk, it's bad enough that we can be manipulated by this sort of thing, but you and I will probably, the worst thing we'll do is we'll unfriend someone, or we'll shitpost on their wall or something, But there are guys out there that feel that it's a good idea to send a fake bomb to a group of people that have supposedly committed this crime, when that's not true at all, because we're a nation of laws.
Yeah.
There's due process. We're innocent until proven guilty, And what's kind of happening is this is like, it's really working. It really works on the mob very well. And when one person sees that there are other people that share their opinion, they just jump on board and they feed off of each other, It's a lot of really bad potential for this stuff.
Is linked to the dark web. Like when I was looking up how to do this, it's called like Deep Fake Lab, because I wanted to see what the software was like. I was totally going to download it and see what I could do with it. And as I started to look into it, you would go to a place and then it would send you to a Russian mirror, and then you would have to download uTorrent. They wanted you to go through Tor, so you're already going to the dark web. And I was like, I'll have nothing to do with this. But there's
Yeah,
people that
you.
are. There's people that definitely will. And the people that are on the dark web, I mean, imagine you got a big politician dealing with stuff like this. Imagine me or you dealing with it. We have no recourse. I mean, I could already think of two ways to fuck somebody's life up with this. You either one of these six fucks from the dark web takes a child pornography video, and puts your face on it, and you're going to jail. You're definitely catching a child pornography charge. It's going to ruin your life. You're going to lose your job. Or even worse, they take a snuff video or a murder video, put your face on it, and you talk about getting swatted. No, this is going to be next level swatting. People are going to die
Yeah,
from shit
you're
like
right.
this. Yeah, this is going to be
That's really
bad.
gross.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking about it, and it's like, just think of, you mentioned swatting, and some of the guys where it's like the SWAT team like bursts into their home while they're streaming, and it's like, you're thinking about it. You're correct. I mean, you could take a streamer puts out hundreds of hours
Yeah.
of their face with a variety of different things that they say and a variety of different facial expressions. So yeah, it's definitely something that's going to be no bueno. And I'm actually glad, and you have my respect for being for actually linking it to just the everyday man. I'm ranting about the political aspect, which I consider very scary, but you are correct. It could get quite bad. That's why, yeah. I mean, and this tour, I've looked into that before. I had someone that was telling me, they're like, yeah, you should check it out. So I did, but I didn't download it.
Yeah.
And from what I read, I really am not going to download it because it's just like there's just lots of really shady stuff going on. And even if you're using Tor for like torrents, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not a politically ostracized minority in like the Republic of China. I don't need
Yeah.
to use, Tor and the dark web to just routinely download like a PDF copy of a book I may own. So you basically have no business being there
Well, I
if
used to
you're a
use
legitimate person.
uTorrent when I was a child. When I was younger, I used to use uTorrent.
Yes.
But when I found out that these peer-to-peer softwares, you're downloading off them and they're downloading off you, you don't know what they're downloading off you. It's peer-to-peer. So, there's actually been stories of people that have been charged with child pornography, possession of child pornography, because they were downloading off somebody else. Somebody was downloading off them, but they were downloading child pornography. But if the authorities look at your internet, look at your computer, I'm not an expert on this. I could be wrong, but from my understanding of it is, it's going to link you to it because your system downloaded the child pornography. So I don't use that anymore. I'm never going to use torrents again because it's just not worth the risk.
That's actually the main reason why I was not a fan of Tor because, like you, I'm not an expert, but if I remember correctly, Tor is the one where it's like, okay, so Flav, Lucy, and Slag are downloading Flav is downloading a file from Slag, and Slag's downloading a file from Flav. Well, Lucy is the intermediary, so
Yeah.
he's the guy that gets in trouble. He's the unwitting innocent who just happened to be part of the network without realizing that snippets of really, really bad things are passing through his computer as part of the whole quote unquote like staying anonymous thing. So it's I took one look at that and I noped right out of it. I
Well,
was
from
like,
what
yeah,
I understand as Tor is just like a internet encryption device. That from my understanding. Because when you talk about the dark web, and this is all from my understanding, is you have what's called the ClearNet, which is just, Google, every website that's listed in the search engine. When you go into the darknet, you're just going to pages that aren't listed. They're not listed in Google, and you use Tor to get to those pages. And all Tor does is it's called like onion encryption. It's layer upon layer upon layer of encryption, hiding you from anybody that's looking at where you're going. And there was actually an article from the FBI that said that they could crack Tor. They could definitely do it, but it would take a lot of resources, and it just wouldn't be worth it.
all I know is that. Oh, go ahead.
So I don't think Tor exposes you to other people's downloads or anything like that, but from what I've read and what I've seen, there's nothing good on the dark net. There's nothing out there when we live in a free country, there's nothing there worth going there for. Now, like you said, if you live in China and you need access to books or knowledge, I could understand that. But coming from America, you got everything you need on the clear net. If you're going to the dark net, you're going there for drugs, guns, human trafficking, horrible, horrible stuff, child
Yeah,
pornography, all that.
looking into it, you are actually correct about Tor. I'm thinking of one of the anonymous like torrent style things. I'll have to look into that, and then what I'll do is next podcast, maybe just do a quick segment or what have you on what it was. But yeah, no, I mean it's the internet should reflect society, and
Actually,
it does. So
I'm glad
like
you brought that
you know,
up.
if you're in an alleyway somewhere, if you're in the dark alleyway somewhere up to no good, that to me is the equivalent of like sticking your toes in the dark web online. You know, like why are you here? There's no reason for you to be here for any sort of legitimate thing. You know.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I think tomorrow we should do a segment on Tor in the dark net because you know this and a lot of my friends know this. I used to be heavily into the drug game, and the drug game was very upstanding, very you got what you bought until the Silk Road and the dark net and DreamNet and all that came into the scene, and then you got all these research chemicals, that's what they're called, coming from China, and people order them off the dark net. And that messed the drug game up poorly. I'm not going to go too into it right now, but I think tomorrow we should definitely do a segment on the impact of the dark net and Tor and its uses, and typically the type of seedy underground that operates on those sources.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, it's horrific when you see. It's weird. It's like a terrible ecstasy when you open up a web page for your news and you see tens of thousands of people arrested in a child pornography ring. Because on one hand, that's amazing. You
Yeah.
know, that's great. I don't think we have enough cliffs in the world to throw these guys off of. You know, and they need to be hunted down and destroyed. But on the other hand, the fact that there's thousands of them, tens of thousands of them, is scary.
It's
You know, I mean,
worrying
they have a
because you go back and forth. Is it a developed trait? Is it a mental illness? Is it a genetic mutation? Is there something wrong with these people that's more, far from a sexual depravity? I don't know
yeah,
because I couldn't look at
that's
a
a can of
child.
worms.
I couldn't look at a child and get aroused. It's not going to happen. There has to be something wrong with you to want to fuck children. I mean, I'm not sorry about saying that either. There is something seriously wrong with you if you fuck children or are aroused by the thought of it. There's something horribly wrong there.
Yeah,
Now
and you
now
see,
where it
like
went
I said,
wrong, is it curable? Does it really matter? Like I don't think that's curable. Like you said, there's not enough cliffs to throw you off of because there's no
yeah,
rehabilitation for something like that. That's ingrained in you. Your sexual preferences, you can't change them. Like I'm a firm believer that gay people are born gay. They didn't choose to be this way, and there's nothing wrong with being gay. I'm not trying to say that
yeah.
gay is
No,
equivalent to that. I'm just
you're
saying
not
that
conflating. You're not saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's a sexual preference, and I don't think you can change your sexual preferences.
I mean, it's just that'll definitely be a good topic. Another one, considering a previous topic we covered was the rise of artificial intelligence, and here we see again it being used in a horrible, horrible way. You know, and there's so much potential for the misuse of artificial intelligence, either destroying your own economy by putting too many people out of business, or strapping machine guns to a drone and just telling it to go to have at it. You know, I mean, at least mercenaries are human beings and have hearts to pump blood, whether or not it's warm or cold. But
Yeah.
I mean, now you're just dealing with a machine that's taking judgment calls. So there's if people aren't careful, there's probably going to be a big push for over-regulation on this stuff, kind of like cloning, where there was just a knee-jerk reaction to this is tied into stem cell research. There was just a massive knee-jerk reaction into stem cell research, so the U.S. fell behind by years. And that isn't the sort of thing you could try to cheat your way into innovation by stealing from like your allies or other countries. But I mean, you could do a lot of damage. Another analogy would be prohibition. You know, Americans are still learning, or I'm sorry, I should say, relearning how to make good beer. You know, there's plenty of good beer out there, but why wasn't this around in the 50s and the
Hmm.
60s? It wasn't just marketing. It was the fact that that knowledge was gone. Those people left. And the beer, they weren't making craft beer during Prohibition. They were making the shittiest quality alcohol you can imagine, you know. So they weren't, it wasn't as if they preserved the craft of brewing. You know, Al Capone was not the savior of craft beer, you know. So it's, I can see a lot of potential for some big problems. Like, am I a fan of AI? Yes. Am I a fan of killer robots like Terminator gunning down people? No. But, you know, I can see that there could just be a massive backlash that could actually hurt our progress into these sorts of fields. And these asshats making fake, deep fake videos are really not going to help. Because, like I said, AI is something that once that's harnessed properly, a lot of these calculations, like for example, for doing the sound edits, which is the hardest part according to this Guardian article. I can't even believe that I'm quoting a Guardian article, but they did a good job this time around. You know, it's like
Yeah.
they said the really laborious part of it is the sound, you know,
Well,
and that's going to be scary.
I would like to go ahead and Lucy even commented last night when he was able to get in touch with us that the Guardian is usually this is Lucy's words. The Guardian is usually a pretty shitty source for real news stories. And he said, I'm a firm believer in judging people off individual journalists and pieces and not labeling websites or parties or segments as all bad. And that's very important, especially in this day and age. Like when I was younger, I was more left leaning, more more of a libtard. And my news source was the Young Turks. Like I loved them because they went against everything that Fox News and all of them were always preaching. But as I got older and I matured, I started to see that the Young Turks are kind of out there sometimes, and it got to a point where it went from more of, oh, let's see what the Young Turks has to say, let's see what Fox News has to say, let's see what the Young Turks has to say, and then we'll put it all together, use my own brain to make my own opinions, and we'll figure out what's cool. You know what I mean? Because that's another thing. When media thinks for you, there's a problem. There's a serious problem. You have to fact check your own resources, and you have to make your own opinions, and that's why, like you were talking earlier about people that bash Trump constantly. During the election, I bashed Trump constantly, and I don't regret that. I'm a firm believer in what I said back then, and I don't
Well,
really like Trump. But as the
sorry
election
to
went
interrupt you,
on,
but he is very bashable. Whether or
yeah,
not you're a fan of him or not, he is a very bashable.
he is. But as time went on and he got elected, I kind of gave it up. And now, like, when you ask me what I think about Trump, I'll say I don't really like the guy. And if you ask me why, I'll say it's his personal opinion. And I don't want to argue about it because I have no points to argue on. Not because there's none out there, just because my time is
It's
better spent.
personality conflict.
Yeah, it's
You
better.
know,
It's
it's
better
like,
spent. Like I don't like the guy.
yeah,
It
exactly.
means nothing. I don't like him. That doesn't mean anything. He's the president. He's
Why?
going to be the
Yes,
president for 4 years. When the election comes back around, I can do my research and then we'll have an argument. But as of right now, he's the president. Unless he does something absolutely intolerable and we're going to impeach him, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter to me.
I mean that's the thing is it becomes so important for some people for some reason. It's like what you just said. You're just some guy. You know, it's like I am one guy out of 8 billion morons living on the planet. And I'm the one where it's like so important for you that I have to see your point of way that you're going to argue with me until you're blue in the face, you know? And it's like ultimately it's all kind of pointless, especially when you see these people just using fake news sources, um, you know, or they, like you mentioned earlier today, it's like the headline. They go with the headline and that's it. Don't spend 2 minutes to watch the 2 minute video.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go with the headline, and I'm gonna hate you, Flav, because you don't agree with me. And you could not agree with me just because maybe you're actually one of those rare people who feels that, well, I'm not very well informed on this topic, so I don't have an opinion on it yet. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, now you're suborning, the Pope of hate. Now you're supporting Nazis. And it's like, no, I'm just trying to be a reasonable guy who, or woman who
And
doesn't have a opinion on a topic that I know nothing about.
and I
I mean,
hate when
it's like,
people try to guilt trip people into hate because they're like, "Oh, well, if you haven't made a decision, you've already decided." Yeah, I
yeah,
have. I've decided not to be an asshat and withhold my opinions until I feel like they're worth presenting. Thank you very much for your time. Shut the fuck up. You know?
yeah, exactly. It's like, did you kiss a Nazi today?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, actually, I was reading, like Stoicism or why Socrates was murdered because, as my friend likes to put it, Socrates' greatest crime was that he wasn't popular, so he had to die.
Yeah.
It's like, just imagine that nowadays. It's this is the same guy who also tells me about Orville, where it's like your right to live is based off of how many upvotes or downvotes you get on a topic. So, and that's what scares me is this virtual signaling. It's just you see these guys, and guess what? I'm like a moth to a flame when it comes to lies. If I see people posting lies, I have to say something.
You
I
know,
don't know why. Maybe I'm just sick in the
I
head, but I
used to
have to
be
make a
like that,
comment.
man. I used to always, you can ask, like, if you ask my parents or anybody that knew me back in the day, I was a menace on Facebook, man. And I don't even mean that as like I was big and bad. Like, looking back on it, I hate myself for what I did because if anything was like false or just, like a bad opinion, when I say bad opinion, I mean an opinion that's not based in any sort of reality. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because opinions are usually not inherently good or bad. It's what they're based on. I would fight to the death on these pages. You know what I mean? I would get in there and I would submit facts. And after a couple years of that and seeing that it never changed anybody's opinion, and it was just like an echo chamber for everybody involved, and countless death threats and give me your address, I'm gonna kill you, faggot. I decided that it was not worth my time. And every time I'm on Facebook, like you said, like I'm like a moth to a flame. Like I really want to get in there. Like let me in, coach. Let me in. But I hold myself back because one, it doesn't do anything, and two, I'm not ready to find that one crazy motherfucker that's gonna shoot me over it. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's and people will get really petty, just over just about anything. I posted a 40K based Warhammer 40,000 based meme with I think it was Serena Williams or Venus Williams, one of the sisters, where they threw a tantrum because they lost a tennis match, and the guy had colorized her so she was green. Put Photoshop these orc tusks, these big tusks in her mouth, and replaced her tennis racket with an axe. And
Yeah.
I had people just trying to call me out on how racist I was and how obviously I hated women, because I posted this really funny thing where they turned her into an orc. And it was just like, you just sit here and you look at it and you're like, wow, like, I don't even know where to start, but it's definitely can be a waste of time. And, I know we had talked about, we were going to discuss social media. I mean, that may be a good segue into it, because we've come back to social media a couple times. And it's just like, I mean, me personally, I remember I would post outrageous stuff on Facebook just to smoke out some of the douchebags that were living around me. I'd be
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't like people who lie. And then guys would come up and be like, who are you talking about? And it's like, guys like you. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm just thinking in my
People
head.
like
It's
you.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, I'm just thinking in my head, it's like you fell for it. Like you took the bait. Like,
Ladies and
obviously,
gentlemen, we got him.
yeah, exactly. It's like, gentlemen, we got him.
I
You
live
know,
under a very strong assumption that shitty people are inherently guilty in the back of their minds for what they do, but they won't show it. So posts like that are very good at getting them to second guess themselves and come out
yes.
into the light,
And that's
because they're
exactly
like
what
they're like,
happened.
oh my god, he caught on to me, and then they'll expose themselves. It's very
I
easy.
remember I had my one of my idiot roommates was like, "Is everything okay?" Because like you posted this, and I just want to make sure. And it's like, yeah, dude, it's all about you.
Yeah.
This post is about you and people like you, and he was trying so hard to get to the bottom of it. And it's just like, you could tell. It's like, well, there you go, buddy.
It
Yeah,
wasn't
like I
meant for
said, you
you,
fell
but if
for
the
it.
shoe fits, wear it, you know?
Exactly. So, and I just see social media just amplifies like all the wrong things because guess what? We're human beings, and that's what we do. The bad guy wins in
Well,
human society.
I- I've
Bad guy doesn't
seen
lose most times.
I've seen a lot of articles on. I've never fact checked them, but that social media is linked to an increased rate of depression and anxiety, and it makes sense because nobody ever posts how boring their life is on Facebook. Nobody ever posts, pictures of bad times. Usually, it's always like I'm living my best life. You know what I mean? Like just like good pics, like what I did today, my food, I'm living the life. And, it's not really like that. Nobody really lives that life. Even millionaires aren't always at parties, and mansions and things like that. They're
Yeah,
sad too.
I mean the thing is that's just what we're going to naturally do because no one, aside from guys like me, will post rants just to catch idiots. It's like most people. You're right. They're not going to post how they were going to bake a pie. I was going to bake a pie today.
Yeah.
And unless they add, but then I got robbed. No one's gonna care what happened.
Well,
And
I
then
mean, I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack for this, but there are so many posts I see from females on social media of, oh my God, I can't go on anymore. You know what I mean? Or, oh, I had such a horrible day. And all it
nobody cares.
is sympathy grabs. That's all it is.
I
Sympathy
mean,
grabs.
it's
And
a lot of
if
people
you're not the
clamor for
person
attention.
that they want to talk to, they'll either leave you on red on the comment or they won't reply or they'll be like, I don't want to talk about it. But as soon as somebody they want the sympathy from comments, oh, message me or call me. You know what I mean? It's just a sympathy grab. That's all it is.
The girl I was pursuing posted a very nice picture of herself, and I told her I said like, hey, nice eyes with bright eyes or something like that. It's a great pic, and then next thing I know, it's like that's like World War III. It's like,
Yeah.
how dare you comment? It's like, I'm sorry, you put up a really nice, kind of sexy picture of yourself. I mean, your nice, voluptuous double D's are hanging out, and
Yeah.
you're showing off your tats, and you did your makeup, and it's like, how dare I compliment you? I should get back into my cave.
Yeah. Well, I
You
mean, you
know,
got you got
yeah.
these girls that like they'll set the camera up. They'll have tight pants on with their ass hanging out. They'll have their double D's hanging out, and they'll be like, "I got my nails done." Like, bitch, don't even. You know what I mean? Like, we know what you're trying to show
It's
off.
like, oh, it's raining outside. It's
Yeah.
raining
Do
outside
you
right
see it through
now,
the
guys,
window
and
in the
it's like,
very
you're not
back? And like,
like, there's
we're
a
not.
window in this picture.
Yeah, we're not shaming anybody. Like, I'm not one of those guys. Like, if you're a girl and you want to show off, you just show off. You know what I
Please
mean?
do.
Yeah, please do. We
You,
we
you should be
encourage it.
happy. You should be happy with yourself. Like, and
Yeah.
guys do it too. It's just we're guys, so we don't go and look at the guy version of the sympathy posts because more or less there are differences between the sexes, but human nature just finds a way. We're very similar in many ways. So
Well,
we just like to celebrate our differences because usually it means sexy time. So
two points on that. One is, like you said, you started World War III on her post. I've always got a philosophy that things that are cute and things that are creepy all go off on if she's into you or not. Because if a girl is into you, everything that you do in the pursuit of love would come off as cute if she likes you, but is going to come off as insanely stalkerishy and creepy if she doesn't like you. That's the only denominator. That's the only difference. If she's into you, it's cute. If she's not into you, it's creepy as fuck. You know what I
I
mean?
remember you talking about this before. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's the truth. It's like, well, it's just kind of like look at being a guy. Let's say that I'm your coworker and you despise me, and I come up and I'm like, hey, I hope your mom's going to be better. you're probably thinking in your head, I hope your face goes through this plate glass window.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of, you are correct. It's kind of considering the source. So
And I think that my second point is I think that, we got a lot of, slut shaming and women hating and misogyny in America. And the same with men. Women are starting to hate men. And I think we need to celebrate our differences. You know what I mean? I think we need to understand where each other's coming from. Because, like I said, the guy is the chaser. The guy is the one that goes after the female. And sometimes that's going to look really creepy. But as a guy, you cannot blame us for trying because it's our job to chase.
yeah,
Now,
I
some
mean, there's
men,
always the intent.
yeah, some men need to get better on picking up the cues of, hey, you're not cute, you're creepy. Like with this girl, not always. It's not you, bro. It's just her. She's not into you, so leave her alone. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
women
exactly.
look at it as, oh my God, they're predators, which it's not wrong. Men are sexual predators, and I don't mean that as in like a convict way. I mean, naturally, we are sexual predators. We go out and we hunt women as prey for love. You know what I mean? And that's a way to look at it that makes it, if you take things that are very complex and dumb them down, it gets more raw and you can digest it better. And that's the way I look at love is men are sexual predators. We're looking for a mate. That's our prey. And if she likes it, it's cute. If she doesn't, it's creepy. You need to pick up on that cue and you need to move the fuck on. Don't bother the girl. You know what I mean? And women,
Yeah.
on the other hand, are putting themselves out there. They're trying to put on a display, they're throwing out the bait. And they want the guys that they want to take the bait and chase them. But if that's cute, but if a guy that she doesn't like takes the bait and chases her, then she's got to cut the line. You know what I mean? Like it's creepy at that point. And that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. But I see a lot of women hating, slut shaming. Oh, well, don't put your tits out there if you don't want me to comment on your post. Like, no, bro. You do it one time, she's not into it, move the fuck on. It's her Facebook page. She
Yeah,
can post what she
exactly.
wants.
Like, exactly. And you have a great point there. That's the thing is, guess what? There are winners and losers in every game.
Yeah,
And you are not going to convince someone that doesn't like you or is not attracted to like you or be attracted to you. I mean, and if they don't like you and you say something like, "Oh, well, you know what? I'm going to get into shape for you." You know what they're going to turn around and say is they're going to say you shouldn't do this for anyone except for yourself.
exactly.
And that's like the ultimate smackdown because that basically shows you're just a douchebag.
Well,
You
it's
know,
true though because somebody that's gonna love you is gonna love the worst version of you and the best version of you. You know what I mean? Like I'm not talking about like you're 300 pounds, you smell like Cheetos, and you live in a basement. Nobody's gonna love that. But if you're generally doing your best, even on your worst days, the girl that you're gonna be with is gonna like you. She's gonna, appreciate you. But you can't. No matter how you could be the best version possible of yourself, these girls aren't gonna love you. Now you have like guys that like got really fit, got all these muscles, got money, cars. Yeah, they get a lot of pussy, but they don't get a lot of love. There's a difference between sex and love.
well, it's as a guy, it's actually usually really obvious if a woman cares about you and loves you because they'll let you know. These are the ones that will text to see how you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of cues out there, but like you said, the problem is there's also a decent number of people that don't seem to understand these things. Where it's like, oh, I have to try harder. I got blocked on Facebook, but I can make this work. I still have her phone number or what have you, and it's like, just leave it alone.
Yeah, let's go ahead and put the through the looking glass stamp on that. If a girl blocks you on social media, it is done. You know what I mean? Like leave
No hope.
you've already passed the line, my dude. You need to cut your investments and reinvest somewhere else cuz you're done. Now you're entering sexual predator territory in a new way.
I mean, nobody deserves to feel uncomfortable unless they've brought that upon themselves, is the
Yeah.
way I look at it. So, if I'm just sitting here minding my own business, putting up booty shots, I still should have the right to not be pursued and stalked by mega creeps,
Yeah.
because there is still a social contract, and a social contract has nothing wrong with beautiful people or good looking people showing off their beautifulness. Nobody cares about that. The world is run by good looking people, but it's like, but you don't have the right to harass them and spam them and to even hate them. Like my favorite are the guys where they're like, "I'm so in love with this girl," and then it's like, "Well, I'm sorry, you're 300 pounds and smell like Cheeto dust." Like
Yeah.
like there's a lot of you to love, and like maybe if you improve yourself, everything will improve. So then they go from "I love this person" to "now I hate them." It's like, so you never loved them in the beginning, because that's not how love works, buddy. I
Yeah.
mean, you have to like take your heart out, take the hearts of your children out and burn them in a fire. That's hate. That's love turning to hate.
Well, I
What
mean,
you had was
another.
like a desire for possession.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Another philosophy that I developed when I was very young. I was obsessed with this girl. It was like my high school love. I was obsessed with her. She reciprocated, but it was a false reciprocation. You know what I mean? It was just, being overly nice back. And it kind of led me on. And she ended up getting with my best friend and things like that. And, for a while I was hurt by that, but then I developed a very, very important thought process that aided me in life is love is not possession. Love is being happy that the person that you're in love with is happy. You know what I mean? And now when I see her
Yes.
on Facebook or Instagram and all that, I'm happy to see that she's married and happy now. Even though it was to my friend that and I'm not even gonna lie, I still have some hatred there towards the guy, but it's not his fault. You know what I mean? There's nothing that he did wrong, but the human in me is mad about it. But you gotta let that
Yes.
go. Emotions are emotions. They're what they are. They don't mean anything. But
They really don't, and can be quite disruptive, which is why I'm a big fan of Stoicism, because that says that emotions can be negative, and you should live your life a certain way just to avoid these negative emotions. And we had talked about that before. It's like, well, I'm now really upset that Favlovsky hates me. And
yeah,
it's like, okay, Slag, well, why does he hate you? Well, I may have, like, I don't know, insulted his mom. And then he forgave me for that. Okay, well, what else? Well, then I kind of was like talking crap behind his back because we're in love with the same girl, you
yeah,
know. And it's like, well, there you go. Like Flavoski's negative reactions to you and his negative anger and his hatred towards you are something that you caused. I'm not saying it's right for you to want to, to actually act on putting my face through a plate glass window, but I'm the one that puts you in that negative mindset, and I'm the one that's reaping the consequences of that too.
yeah,
So it's an emotions really at the end of the day. They can be very positive, but those are kind of more of a personal thing. Sharing them is great, but even then you can get like recklessly happy. Like for example, my father married the love of his life when he was like in his mid to late 20s. Okay. My mother was, a very beautiful woman. And, so he's sitting there and he's riding high. He's like, I just married this very beautiful woman. Everything's great. Well, he made a series of promises to some of our relatives because at the time he was out of his mind. You know what I mean? He's just got
yeah.
his love
Manic.
goggles on. His brain is not even, it's orbiting the moon, and then here they come decades later, 50 years later, and they're like, hey, we want to collect. And it's like, bro, come on. It wasn't even fair at the time. And by the way, you should have taken advantage of it back then because you ain't getting anything now. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? It's like, no, I'm not going to help you buy it. I mean, I'm not kidding. He said outrageous things. Like he told
yeah,
me that he would help him buy a home, and it's like the guy never, thankfully, took advantage of it when my father was younger. But here he is 50 years later. You're like, hey, you said you were going to help me. It's like, bro, it's been 5 decades. Like, give it a rest or
circumstances have changed, my friend.
change. You know, so it's they're definitely very interesting. And I even had someone I was arguing with on Facebook. They were like, you know what, you're very calm, and it's like, yeah, I am. I'm not actually a very calm person, but it's like usually I don't counterpunch with the name calling and all that stuff unless you get very egregious and or I see that you're obviously just completely false. Like I like to use what's called Occam's razor, which is a concept invented in the 1800s, basically, that just said the simplest explanation for what's happened is usually the correct answer.
Yeah,
So I just take a look at stuff, and you look, and you see what someone is saying, and you see what words they're using and how they're reacting to a subject, And you may say something like, "You're jealous," and it's like, "What do you mean? Like, I'm not jealous. I'm really angry." And it's like, "No, you're jealous because you keep saying stuff like these rich kids or this wealthy white man or this guy shouldn't be shouldn't be with this person, like, but they have no real reason. It's all this, so it's very interesting, just dissecting what someone says to the root of their intent. I'm a big believer of intent. you know I don't, some people may not actually go drive uh and think that they're going to be killing someone and that they want to do it. That's the difference between like manslaughter and murder. Is manslaughter is basically your intent really wasn't there to like kill this person. You weren't going out looking for someone to die, you
Yeah.
know, as opposed to the guy who takes knives with him to bars, waiting for that bar fight. It's like he's intending to seriously hurt someone,
Yeah.
you know. So I that's what I tend to look at when I look at people's posts, and a lot of it isn't even as complicated as jealousy, bro. It's just to fit in. It's just to fit in.
Well, I mean,
you know.
I always operated when I had an argument about a subject, or I like to call it a debate because it's not really an argument, or it shouldn't be. When it reaches the argument level, I would always just end it on, "I see you have no facts to present, only stones to throw." Once you're done presenting facts and you're just throwing stones at somebody, the debate is over. Now it's an argument, and I'm not interested in participating. You know?
Yeah, that's actually something that I'll tell people is, remember to keep your cool because the first person that loses it is loses.
Yeah.
Um, and it can be tough to do that, and but it's that's I think getting angered shows a lack of focus because I should be listening to every single word that you're saying and chewing them in my head with this brilliant computer we have called a brain and just saying, okay, well, Flav said this. I'm going to revisit that. That's what I do when you and Lucy are talking. When I'm quiet, it's because I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. And that's why in some of the casts I tend to say I have opinions on three different things I want to go over.
Yeah.
So, but there are people where it's like I hate the sound of your voice. Like you're just wrong. I'm not listening. And it's like,
They
so
just
they're not
like die.
focusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not focusing on what you're saying. And I mean, that's a good rule of thumb is just keep your cool, just go
Well,
from
we
there.
seem to have a deficit of people in America and around the world really that they don't know how to listen. They only know how to hear. They hear what you're saying, but they're not listening. They're not looking into it. And I just don't understand, man. Like, I'm not trying to knock anybody's intelligence, but I look at the world around me and I'm like, what is wrong with people? Like,
You see, that's why I
nobody's
said
thinking. Nobody's thinking. Like, it makes you feel really isolated
that's what I
sometimes.
said. Didn't I say that earlier? Like
Yeah.
don't you feel isolated? Like you look online and you're like the way I put it is every day I see proof that Socrates was murdered. Like it wasn't just a fable. Like we are more than capable of saying, Flav, you know what? Like we don't care about your opinion. Actually, we do. We think it's we think it's a threat, an existential threat to
Yeah.
the way we're doing things. So now you have to die.
Oh, great.
Yeah, sorry, Flav. You got to die now because you got enough downvotes on your opinion. You're obviously a Nazi. You're obviously a Nazi alt right guy. And it's like that's just it's intellectually lazy. It's
Yeah.
it's the equivalent of not giving money to a bum because you just assume all of them are horrible, crazy drug addicts. Whenever
Mm.
someone looks at me, like if I'm not gonna toot my own horn, and in fact I haven't done it for a couple. Actually, I haven't done it for like a couple years because we're either driving everywhere or I don't really walk the streets as much as I used to anymore in areas that have homeless. But sometimes I give money to a homeless guy, and it's like my companion or whoever I'm with at the time would be like, oh well, why are you doing that? They're all drug addicts. It's like really, you're telling me that grandpa is a drug addict? How about that guy? The skinny 20-year-old kid who's scratching his elbows manically. Okay, I'm going to make a judgment call and assume that guy's probably a drug addict. But to generalize and to dehumanize an entire group of people just to justify not giving them some spare change is the exact same thing. It's intellectual laziness. I'm not listening to you, Flav. I don't need to. I've already been fed everything I know. I know more than you because I read more headlines than you did today. You know, and it's just like there's a lack of critical thinking, and
Yeah.
that's really really scary
Well, a lot of
because that.
people, especially people
Go
that are
ahead.
well educated, they're not really critically thinking either. They're just regurgitating knowledge. They're just regurgitating the things that they've read.
That's the thing is that's the basis of it. Like I used to make when I was going to college, they had critical thinking classes like for business and stuff, and I used to make fun of people because if you read a book on critical thinking, it's common sense. It
Yeah.
literally is. Pavlovsky says something, Slag listens, actually listens, then decides on the merits. Is it right or is it not? Okay, well, I don't have enough knowledge on this topic, so I need to educate myself. So instead they skip all of that and go, "You're wrong."
Yeah.
Or like one of my buddies likes to put it, how dare you disrupt my comfort zone? And it's like, what are you talking about? Like it's an opinion. It shouldn't actually be able to like, directly affect you mentally or or physiologically. Like me coming up and telling you that I think it's bad that such and such is happening shouldn't cause a complete mental breakdown to the point where now you hate me. But that's what's happening, Flav, is it's like these are they're like their little safe spaces, their little bubbles, and before if it was something where it's like, okay, if I come up and I push you, that's a threat. If I or unless I like clap you on the back, or I do it too hard, it's like that's kind of a little bit of a threat, or maybe I'm just being inconsiderate by slapping you so hard that you kind of lose your breath. But if I come up to you and say, Flav, I enjoy slapping people on the back, and you had a bad experience with that when you were a kid, you don't have a right to turn around and say, now you hate me. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, I'm not trying to attack you. I'm just telling you what my opinion is.
Like,
And that's what's happened. This has gone from talk used to be weaponized. And one of the ways that they would do it, a great example of assault is actually making you fear for your life. So if I showed up, even if I didn't have a weapon, but I put you in fear of your life just from my words, from my threats towards you, my actual legitimate threats. Like I may be wearing a Jason mask and got a can of gasoline or something in my hand. I've made you fear for your life. That's technically assault. I can understand that because you really shouldn't be able to go around and terrorize people.
yeah.
But now they're trying to say that that's the same thing as me voicing my opinion, which just happens to oppose yours. Whether or not your opinion is poorly formed, one thing you'll find out is that the people with less knowledge are the ones that are going to be the most frightened and the most discomforted by what you have to say. I think it's a red flag,
Like
but it's one that you can actually use if you know what to look for.
if I ran a college, I can't even think of like a critical thinking class. Like if I had a college, I would offer critical thinking courses, and anybody that signed up for them would immediately fail. You'd be kicked out of the college, and we'd give you your tuition back because I hate taking stupid people's money. You know what I mean? But like if somebody has to teach you to think, you've already failed. Like I would say that being taught how to think is worse than not thinking at all. Because then at least you can't be used as a drone to, perpetuate somebody else's opinions.
I mean, the thing is, Flav, is, it's kind of like education starts at the home. Kids are going to have a rough time if they weren't taught manners properly, assuming
Yeah.
they're in like a polite society. There's always that one kid that gets punched in the face, and suddenly he's reformed. Yeah, he's reformed because he's realized that he's got a punchable face when he
Yeah.
acts this way. So, but the thinking part is kind of that's a little scary.
Well,
So,
I'm gonna go ahead and play this clip from Goodwill Hunting. Let
Drew
me
Penguin says that he likes cats because they
Do we
taste
re-
like chicken. Well,
That makes sense.
as a cat lover, Drew, you offend me, and I feel personally.
well, I'll have you know, as a critical thinker, everything tastes good if it's cooked right. Everything tastes like chicken if it's cooked right. But that would be
Proof
my
that we're in a
critical thought
simulation.
on that. Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this clip from Goodwill Hunting. This is a clip that ties into critical thinking and college education and things like that.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Fine.
So do you ladies,
Come here often?
do I come here? I come here a bit. I'm here, from time to time. Do you go to school here?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. So I think I had a class with you.
Oh, yeah? What class?
History.
Maybe.
Yes, I think that's what it was. You don't necessarily might not remember me. I like it here. It doesn't mean because I go here I'm a genius. I am very smart. Hey, how's it going? How are you?
Good, how you doing?
You want it? I don't.
What class did you say that was?
History. Yeah.
Just history? It must have been a survey course then, huh?
Yeah, it was. It was surveys.
Right.
You should check it out. It's a good course. It'd be a good class.
How'd you like that course?
Frankly, I found the class, rather elementary.
Elementary. I don't doubt that it was.
Yeah.
I remember that class. It was just between recess and lunch.
Clark, why don't you go away?
Why don't you relax?
Why not go away?
I'm just having fun with my new friend, that's all.
Wait, we could have a problem?
No,
I don't understand.
there's no problem here. I was just hoping you might give me some insight into the evolution of the market economy in the southern colonies. My contention is that prior to the Revolutionary War, the economic modalities, especially in the southern colonies, could most aptly be characterized as agrarian pre-capital.
All right.
Of course that's your
Hang on a
contention.
second.
You're a first-year grad student. You just got finished reading some Marxian historian, Pete Garrison probably. You're gonna be convinced of that till next month when you get to James Lemon. Then you're gonna be talking about how the economies of Virginia and Pennsylvania were entrepreneurial and capitalist way back in 1740. That's gonna last until next year. You're gonna be in here regurgitating Gordon Wood, talking about, the pre-revolutionary utopia and the capital-forming effects of military mobilization.
As a matter of fact, I won't, because Wood drastically underestimates the impact of social
Wood drastically underestimates the impact of social distinctions predicated upon wealth, especially inherited wealth. You got that from Vickers. Work in Essex County, page 98, right? Yeah, I read that too. Were you gonna plagiarize the whole thing for us? Do you have any thoughts of your own on this matter? Or is that your thing? You come into a bar, you read some obscure passage, and then pretend you pawn it off as your own idea just to impress some girls, embarrass my friend? See, the sad thing about a guy like you is in 50 years, you're gonna start doing some thinking on your own, and you're gonna come up with the fact that there are two certainties in life. One, don't do that. And two, you dropped 150 grand on a fucking education you could have got for $1.50 in late charges at the public library.
Yeah, but I will have a degree. And you'll be serving my kids fries at a drive-thru on our way to a skiing trip.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but at least I won't be unoriginal. But I mean, if you have a problem with that, we could just stop.
So I think that sums it up pretty well.
Oh yeah.
Critical thinking and forming your own opinions and being original is, you got a lot of people nowadays that pursue educations not because they want the knowledge. We always hear about people in public schools and even in colleges of, oh my God, all they do is talk to each other. They're on their phones. They're so rowdy. I can't even pay attention in class. It's because they don't care. They're just there for the grade. Or they're there for the degree. They're not actually there to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
My
the huge
father's,
problem.
My father would always talk about that as far as college or universities goes. He says there's always people that are just there for the piece of paper. Like they don't care that they could actually learn something, or they're just there for that piece of paper and that's it. So they're doing their time to get the credential and that's it. Now there are guys where they are brilliant, and credentials are useful for helping get discovered. It's kind of a sink or swim thing. It's like, oh, Flav, you're fresh off the boat with your master's degree in business. Well, I'm not going to insult the MBA profession because this isn't the 80s or the 90s anymore, but it's like they give you a chance. It gets your foot in the door. And then from there, you're going to determine, assuming your bosses and coworkers are competent, they're going to be able to determine whether or not you actually know what the hell you're talking about in the first place.
Well, I mean, that's why I think that clip, as we analyze it, the guy that was just regurgitating knowledge that he had read, let's not take away from his credit. He's brilliant. Anybody that can remember that and read all those books, they have everything they need to be a genius, except they're not thinking critically. And, hopefully, if let's say this was a real encounter, that guy went home and he actually did some thinking of himself. And he got G-checked by this guy that had everything to be a genius, and he had the critical thinking, which put him a step above. Any man that can form his own opinions is going to be on a much higher level of footing than somebody that just absorbs a lot of knowledge. Because knowledge is useless unless it's able to be applied in a, a realistic way.
Well, you see, bringing that back to social media, though, there's ways that you could try to compensate for that. Like, I call it amplification. It's like you may be the righteous voice in the desert, but I have 4 million followers.
Yeah. Well, also on social media, you block who's not your echo chamber, and you ignore them. When you're in a bar talking to a guy and everybody's looking on, there's no running from that,
Mm-hmm.
As we move out of the streets and into the internets, the internets, it's gotten bad for thought. I mean, we live in a world where an idea can go around the world in a minute. We live in a world where you learn more in one college semester than a scholar did in his whole life in the Middle Ages. And we're getting stupider. There's a problem. Somebody needs to sound the alarm. We're lacking people that are critically applying knowledge.
The death of wisdom, man.
Yes.
It died in the womb. Didn't DOA. Killed in action. It's that's why social media can pose a real big problem to people's mental health in general. Because imagine waking up every damn day, and you have faith in these media sources for some reason. That today's the day. This is what's going to happen today. Well, it doesn't happen today. And then you wake up the next day. Today's the day. It's like, how many more days are there going to be? How many more times do people need to cry wolf before you turn around and say, you know what? I'm done. Like, I don't even care I don't care if I get killed by wolves in the forest by myself. At least I died free. Instead of being huddled up in this herd going, oh, there's a wolf somewhere. I heard there's a wolf. There's a wolf. I heard rumors of a wolf. It's like, you're right. It's an echo chamber. They can be useful for information, but they're not useful for intellectual growth and debate, because chances are you may be able to engage in debates with some people and have a good time, but chances are instead of rising to the challenge, they're just going to block you, or your audience is going to block you, so it's a problem. It enables this intellectual laziness.
I just don't understand where it's gone, though. Like, is it happening at home? Is it happening in the schools? Social media is definitely having an effect, but, I grew up in an age group where, social media was just beginning to blossom, and my generation's full of idiots. My generation's full of people that are brilliant but can't think for themselves. What's happening? Where's the wisdom going? Why is it not being instilled in our youth?
Because there's no point to do that. I like George Carlin, who I miss very much, a little bit more every day, because he said that all the people want that own your society, that own your government, they don't want to crank out Einsteins. They want to crank out barely intelligent enough people to work and pay taxes and shut up.
Yeah.
That's what they want. So that's why you're seeing people expressing concerns over, like, for example, private schooling. Like, my brother is already starting to save money. He does quite well. He's a very successful kid. But he's already saving up money for his children, because he knows in the future he's going to send them to a private school, because he has zero faith in the public school system. And it's all well and good for, like, older people. I saw this online the other day. These guys were debating, and they said, one thing we can all agree on, I hope, is that the public education system has failed us all.
Yeah.
That's a general statement. That's basically the equivalent of saying we're all in this shit together. We're all on the same boat. Pick up a bucket and start bailing out this water. So some guy comes back at him and says, well, actually, I have multiple degrees, which were funded through fellowship or outreach funds. How about yourself? It turns out the guy's brilliant. He's got like multiple engineering degrees, so he could hold his own. The one thing that got me is the person that was giving him a hard time was like 60. Okay? Things were different back in your day. They were different back then. Even people that were idiots were rightly shunned. or it would take months for their idiotic comments to actually make it to mainstream after they wrote a million letters and ran around the world, in like a month, or it didn't make the grade for the media. Well, today, every moron with an opinion, kind of like us, Flop,
Yeah,
can
exactly.
go and post whatever it is they want, and it's just like, it's different today. It's not the same. You can't sit there and say, oh, well, I'm highly educated and I was a product of the school system. It's like, yeah, a product of the school system 40 years ago, 50 years ago when they had Metal Shop, when they had
Yeah.
Pride, So when they taught kids that if you pick on someone, he's going to turn around and punch you in the face.
And you
guess what?
deserved it.
And you deserve it.
You're not
Now-
nowadays you're a victim for being
Yeah,
an
it's called-
asshole.
It's called cry bullies.
Yeah.
Scott Adams, the master of persuasion, coined that term, where it's basically, I pick on you, I pick on you, I pick on you. And then how dare you turn around and say, you know what, Slag, I don't like you because I think your voice sounds goofy. And it's like, oh, Flav, how dare you? Like, you can't do this. You've insulted my very being, you racist.
A safe
And it's
place.
like, so I start crying, and you're sitting there going, well, I'm blinking back these tears of rage that you induced in me, and I'm the one that's the victim, But Flav is the bad man now because he actually lashed out after I needled him with my stupid opinions for, days on end or hours on end. I mean, it's pathetic. It's a intellectual cowardice. There's a lot of that too going around. That's why I really respect some of these guys, like, Zeno or some of these other philosophers. Yeah, okay, maybe one of them did live in a barrel, but you know what? He didn't give a fuck.
At least he was original,
At least he was an original thinker, a realist. Like, he didn't care what you thought. He didn't let your opinion sway him from what he believed in, which eventually became Stoicism.
Yeah,
It's
and
very useful self-help. It's a viable self-help philosophy you can use today. I mean,
and like I believe his name was like Dionysus was the guy we're talking about, but
that was
yeah.
the one. That was the one. Yeah.
But like you talk about people being in it for sorry, had a stroke. The degree, and in it for the money. When Alexander the Great came to Dionysus and asked him, like, oh, wise philosopher, what do you want? I've conquered all these kingdoms. I'm a man of many riches. What can I do for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, he told him to, step to the right. You're blocking my son. Like, he didn't care. He was in it to win it. He was in it for life. He wasn't in it for riches. He wasn't in it for glory. He was in it for all the right reasons, and that's what makes him a man worth admiring.
That's the thing is, you and I and Lucy, when we talked about Diogenes, this was like a couple of weeks ago. It's like we were laughing and we were making fun of the guy, but you know what? We all have respect for this guy.
Yeah.
We respected him at the very basic level. I mean, it's kind of what this reminds me of is V for Vendetta. There's a beautiful line in that movie where a prisoner has written a letter. And she says, they will take everything from you except that last inch. That is you. Never give it up. And in that inch, it's a beautiful thing. And that's what you see a lot of people doing is they just give up that last inch of themselves. I mean, it's not like it's permanently gone, but it's a character flaw. It's a bad action, and you see that a lot, and you see these people, they come out and they say, don't go to Flav's business. They're not doing it to be brave. Diogenes was brave. He said that to Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was literally wearing a breastplate that supposedly came from Hercules. Okay? So you're sitting here looking at a guy who is wearing the armor of a demigod, the strongest man ever. And you turn to him and you tweak his balls by saying, you know what, you step to the right place. I guarantee you, Alexander probably for a second was like, I'm going to kill this man. And then probably was laughing internally because of the ludicrousness of it all and the respect that he probably had for that guy and his bravery, because he doesn't want more yes men.
Yeah.
That's the last thing these powerful people want are sycophants. So if you tweak them a little and they're not, Hitler or Stalin or Pol Pot or Kim Jong-un, You know, they're gonna admire you a little. They're gonna admire you for your chutzpah, having a spine, because guess what? They're surrounded by the spineless. They're surrounded by a guy that'll whisper honey in their ear, for a living. So it's kind of nice once in a while. It's like when your friend comes up to you and says, "You know what, bro? You're kind of fucking up."
Well, I mean, in a world
You
of
know.
fallacy, a man that has the aptitude for thinking critically and seeing the truth in the world is delighted to see raw truth, you know? Because we live in a
Yeah.
world full of lies and echo chambers, and when we come across something that's so pure and so true, we can't help but to, just have a revelation. You know what I mean? It's just so rare nowadays. You just don't see it anymore.
Yeah, you also got to be gracious in victory too. Seeing as we're kind of talking about this from like a social media aspect, it's like if a guy turns around and says, "Okay, Flav, Flav, you were right. I was wrong. You were right about this. I need to think about it." You probably shouldn't just take the opportunity to, kick them while they're down. I'm not saying you should be a pussy and everyone should sing kumbaya, but be gracious in victory, because
Yeah.
you won. You're done. It does. Ultimately, it's not going to matter. We'll
Well,
probably nuke ourselves out of a digital existence anyway. No alien archaeologist is ever going to see, these posts. They're gone, lost to history. So
Well, I mean, the thing is, in the pursuit of science, as long as science is, progressed, it doesn't matter who was right and who was wrong. As long as the one that was wrong accepted it, then you should rejoice. Any true scientist, when shown that his theory is wrong and the right one is proposed, will rejoice in the fact that he was proven wrong because it progressed science. That's not being in it to be right. That's being in it so that humanity progresses. That's the right reason. And that's what people lack. People are like, I didn't get the Nobel Prize. I didn't get a Grammy. I didn't get an Oscar. Well, somebody did it better. You should be happy that that has been contributed towards humanity. Maybe your podcast didn't make it. You know what I mean? Maybe this podcast will never become something great, but maybe somebody will watch it and do it better than we did, and then we could be happy that somebody took something away from it. You know what I mean? Or apply it in their daily lives. You got to be happy that even if you lose, you didn't really lose if you inspired somebody or you were true to yourself. As long as you're true to yourself at the end of the day, you've won. And if you ever give up that last inch that makes you who you are, you lost the game.
don't give up that last inch, guys.
Yeah. Well, we've been going on for about an hour and 30 minutes. I think we're gonna end it on that. Don't give up that last inch. This has been Through the Looking Glass with Favosky, Slag Nasty, and Snuglington, also known as Lucy. We'll be back here tomorrow night, 6:50 p.m. We're gonna be talking about Tor, the Dark Net, and probably some other things. But until then, signing out, guys.